I don't really know where to start with this video because God has been speaking things to me that might seem like a little here and a little there, like might seem unrelated, but they're actually very much related. But if it seems that way to you, wait until the end of the video because it'll come together. And I'm not really saying that for my benefit. I'm saying it so that you can understand the way that God will speak certain things to you, and you have to kind of wait until he brings the whole picture together. Sometimes it might seem a little bit arbitrary. So I think the first thing that I want to start with is, today I went to the building. I haven't really gone there since the week of the fires when I went with my son-in-law, and everything was just absolutely covered in soot. So I did what I needed to do in terms of watering plants, picking up the, giant umbrella that fell over, pulling off the tree limbs so that the city would pick them up, in the street, because there were some pretty large branches that broke off. All metaphors, by the way, to lean into. None of this is arbitrary, what God sends in our lives. Even to the extent that as I've been taking up with him, where in the world do I start with cleaning up this office building? There are leaves and debris everywhere. And he kept telling me, wait until I wash it. Wait until I wash it. So he did send the rain and he washed it, but he's going to be sending more rain. So I'm waiting for him to do that just to keep washing that debris away, washing that soot and fire away. And thankfully, the building sits kind of on a hill. The parking lot is like sloped. I guess most parking lots are sloped or driveways are sloped, but this is really sloped, like significantly sloped. So that's kind of nice. So it's going to wash downward. But I went to visit the building today and go kind of assess where we're at now. Still lots of soot and stuff like that. And I was feeling really overwhelmed. And I went into the building and I could see that by every single door, there was, because the winds were so incredibly strong, soot blew into those areas. And it really needed to, everything needed a good dusting, and I needed to clean that up. So he was talking with me as I was doing it, and he was telling me he was reminding me of when Jesus said, first clean the inside of the cup and the outside will be clean. And he was really reminding me of something that he's kind of been working with me on as we're entering into Passover on the 13th. Every single day I'm sitting with him. Every morning I'm sitting with him and I'm listening to, okay, how is he speaking to me today? What is my daily bread? What does he want to minister to me? What does he want me to clean up? What does he want me to examine? But when we enter into Passover, for example, or the other, any of the holy days, I'm always, doing this work to clean myself up because that's what he had the Israelites doing, ceremonial cleansing rituals, like sacrificing the red heifer and cleansing themselves with the ashes. Well, I know that points forward to us cleansing our souls, and that sacrifices could only cleanse us externally, but as Paul talks about, we need to be clean internally. And that's what Jesus was getting at. Well, when I enter into these holy days, I feel a little bit more pressure to really pay attention and really examine. And so this is one of the things that he was speaking to me and helping me to understand that as I'm doing my personal work, he's the one who's going to cleanse me outside. He's going to wash me. He's going to get rid of the soot. He's going to bring the water to finish the job and show me where I need to go next. So this very much relates with Passover as we're going to be entering into Passover. This is our covenant. Passover representing our covenant. The day on which that first evening during the Lord's Supper, where Jesus is extending the covenant. And so that's really what he was talking with me about today. Start here. I'll tell you the next place to go. And he did. He absolutely did. I mean, he showed me things even that I could use for cleaning. And, he just showed me things that I wouldn't have even thought about today. Because really, having been through a fire in 2012, that stuff gets everywhere. It feels impossible to get everything clean. There are just so many rounds of cleaning that you have to go through. And that's the metaphor that I was feeling today. And with these things, and with man, it may be impossible, but with God, he's the one who's going to show us the next place to go. He's not bogging us down with idiot work. So I came home and I started to feel really overcome with grief, like overwhelming grief. I started to think about everything that I've given in order to do what I'm doing. Things that no one could know and no one could understand, like keeping that building, the building that was going to pay for my home, the building that would have provided for me, if I had sold it, that would have provided for me for the rest of the time that I'm here. I would have felt comfort, I would have felt security, but God said he wasn't done with it. And I was like, okay, you've given me everything. I mean, he's given me everything that I have. If I disobey what he says, how in the world can I feel secure that he's going to take care of me when I'm disobeying him? And yet so many people seem to feel secure disobeying him, thinking, oh, God will look the other way. I can't do that because I don't have any other backup plan for God. He's it. And so this keeps me with him. So I kept the building and I kept the building thinking, okay, I don't know what he's going to do with it. He's taught me so much through it about how to take care of his house. Maybe I'm saving the building so that after I'm gone, when the Antichrist rises, people who are in the body who have nowhere else to go will live there. I don't know. But I know it has something to do with the work that he has me doing. And so, in part, I saved it for you guys. I don't know what he's going to do with it. But that's why I obeyed him. First of all, because of my commitment to him. And second of all, because I assume that everything that he's using in me is for you. I gave up selling that building to save my home because he said he wasn't done with it. And all of this that I'm going through was to take care of people who don't even care to perceive or to obey. And he started to make me think about how Jesus must have felt that way too. About giving up his human house, his body, to make a house for God, to build a house for God. And not only did people not care, but they were calling for his death. I just felt this sadness today that was so deep, I felt like I could cry all day. But it's also something that he does with me when he's kind of moving to the next thing, is that he'll cause me to feel his grief, the grief of the Holy Spirit, so that I can understand why it is he's going to bring this next thing. And as I was contemplating this and journaling about it, my daughter started texting me, and she said, I'll read you our dialogue because it's kind of funny, actually. She said, you're going to be so mad at me. And right when she texted me that, I thought, there's something that I told her 20 times that she probably said, you've already told me that, because I have mom disease and I say things 20 and 30 times. So I knew that it was something that I had told her already. And she said, so when you're canning, like this is, one of the things I've learned from canning, you don't want to put metal and glass together when the glass is hot. You don't want to set it on metal. You don't want to put metal inside of it. I don't know how that works with metal funnels. There must be something different going on there, because I've seen people use metal funnels for canning. But in any event, you don't want to put a metal spoon inside of your jar, which I've seen people do. But it will shatter. You might get away with it however many times, but it will shatter, and you don't want to set it on a metal sink or a metal stove, because all of that hot liquid is going to be everywhere when that jar shatters. So I've said this to my daughter so many times, and like you who are parents probably know this. You say it over and over because you want to make sure that they don't do it and that you've done your job to warn them. So she says, I put my Pyrex on the stovetop because I've done that a billion times, and then added a tiny bit of water to deglaze it, and it exploded everywhere. And I said, oh no, glass on hot metal. You never again get to tell me that I already told you that. She says, haha, I thought since the metal was hot, Two, from the oven being on, that it would be fine because it always is. But she said the pretty awesome part, though, is that I haven't been able to find my tweezers for a while, and I got a shard of glass in my foot, and I was like, shoot. What the heck am I going to do? I stayed calm and pressed on a part of my foot, and the shard raised perfectly for me to grab it. So she was talking to me about this, and then she, of course she said, I'm going to lean into what God's saying to me through this. But I remembered that yesterday, in the morning and at night, I had grabbed some ice trays from the freezer. They slipped from my hands, my clumsy hands, and shattered straight across the floor. Both in the morning and at night. I'm not usually that clumsy. So she reminded me that I needed to go back and discern that with God. And I remember that the second time it happened, I was like, okay, you're trying to speak to me. It's not like I'm in a hurry or something like that. What are you saying? And he started to talk with me about Jeremiah 19, when Jeremiah breaks the pot. We're going to read it in a moment. So he reminded me of this again. And then earlier, he was reminding me of Isaiah 9, something in Isaiah 9, speaking to me specifically about the head and the tail. The prophets and elders that teach lies, I think is what it says, are the head. I'm sorry, let me read it from the actual words so it's correct. He says in verse 13, but the people have not returned to him who struck them, nor have they sought the Lord Almighty. So the Lord will cut off from Israel both head and tail, both palm branch and reed in a single day. The elders and dignitaries are the head, prophets who teach lies are the tail. Those who guide this people mislead them, and those who are guided are led astray. Therefore the Lord will take no pleasure in the young men, nor will he pity the fatherless and widows, for everyone is ungodly and wicked, every mouth speaks folly. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away, his hand is still upraised. If you've been listening to the channel for a while, you know that God has brought me to Isaiah 9 many, many times in the last several months. And really, he's been bringing me through all of the prophets, but particularly through Isaiah and the earlier parts of the book of Isaiah. So he was really pressing, he really more recently has been pressing on me the judgment that is to come on those who have power. Those who have power and those who have been leading God's people astray. This is going to come on him. He's also been pressing on me what I've been telling you, which is the razor of judgment. The reason he's doing this is to shave down those who have been called into a remnant that's been chosen. And so now he puts on me Jeremiah 19, and I want to read that with you and talk a little bit about what I'm hearing from him, because it is so spot on to the things that he's been laying on me and the things that I talked with you about the other day in Habakkuk and Micah. And he just keeps reaffirming this through the different prophets and what they pointed forward to. So Jeremiah 19, this is what the Lord says. Go and buy a clay jar from a potter. Take along some of the elders and the people of the priests, and go out to the valley of Ben Hinnom, near the entrance of the potsherd gate. There proclaim the words I tell you, and say, hear the word of the Lord, you kings of Judah and people of Jerusalem. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Listen, I'm going to bring disaster on this place that will make the ears of everyone who hears of it tingle. For they have forsaken me and made this a place of foreign gods. They have burned incense in it to gods that neither they nor their ancestors nor the kings of Judah ever knew. And they have filled this place with the blood of the innocent. They've built the high places of Baal to burn their children in the fire and as offerings to Baal, something I did not command or mention, nor did it ever enter my mind. So beware, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when people will no longer call this place Topheth, or the valley of Ben Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. In this place I will ruin the plans of Judah and Jerusalem. I will make them fall by the sword before their enemies, and at the hands of those who want to kill them, and I will give their carcasses as food to the birds and the wild animals. I will devastate this city and make it an object of horror and scorn. All who pass by will be appalled and will scoff because of all its wounds. I will make them eat the flesh of their sons and daughters, and they will eat one another's flesh, because their enemies will press the siege so hard against them to destroy them. Then break the jar while those who go with you are watching, and say to them, this is what the Lord Almighty says. I will smash this nation and this city just as the potter's jar is smashed and cannot be repaired. Do you guys hear that in terms with regard to the razor of judgment that I've been talking with you about? I will smash this nation and this city just as the potter's jar is smashed and cannot be repaired. They will bury the dead in Topheth until there is no more room. He's coming to destroy, and that's what I've been telling you. He's coming to destroy. He is bringing destruction. This is it. This is the final judgment before no one returns, before the Antichrist rises. And I can understand why he has caused me to feel such intense grief. Because even though you hear me talk about it over and over and over, you don't do anything. And one of the things that he was talking with me about yesterday had to do with unbelievers. Because there is a woman who I've been friends with for a long time, who I really love, who says that she believes. She says it over and over. But I know that she doesn't. I know that she doesn't because she continues to observe worldly holidays. She doesn't obey the message. And so I've asked God so many times, well, what about her? What about her? Is there anything that I can do? And I've taken it up with him a few times because it hurts me. I want to be able to give her the eyes to see. I want to be able to make her understand. I've even told God, I'll speak as sternly as you want me to speak if you'll make her hear. But he has said to me, look at the fruit. You need to look at the fruit. You need to be honest about the fruit. And I've told you that you don't have friends here. You're not here to make friends. If you want friends, you can't do the work that I have you doing. And so one of the things that I was taking up with him had to do with unbelievers, because he was telling me she is an unbeliever. So I was sorting through, well, what is an unbeliever? An unbeliever, guys, is someone who doesn't obey. An unbeliever can hear the message, but if they don't obey, it's not in their heart. You guys hear the message. You're on the channel, many of you. There are many of you, and many more, who've come to the channel and completely rejected the message, like they don't even want to hear it. And I had hoped that of those of you who hear it, that one day you would obey it. But how can you be a believer if you don't obey the message? How? If you've discerned it not to be true, then you shouldn't be on the channel at all. Have you discerned it? And if you have, why don't you obey? Yet again, Sabbath, just me and my kids. Yet again, Wednesday night, Passover, is just going to be me and my kids. There's no body. There's no body of Christ to assemble, except for those who show up, which is me and my kids. The unbelieving are going into the lake of burning sulfur, you guys. I've given you all of the knowledge, all of the experience, the testimony that I have inside of me. And still you don't obey. Why do you think he's bringing this? Break the jar while those who go with you are watching, and say to them, this is what the Lord Almighty says. I will smash this nation and this city just as the potter's jar is smashed and cannot be repaired. They will bury the dead in Topheth until there's no more room. This is what I will do to this place and to those who live here, declares the Lord. I will make this city like Topheth. The houses in Jerusalem and those of the kings of Judah will be defiled like this place. Topheth, all the houses where they burned incense on the roofs to the starry hosts and poured out drink offerings to other gods. By the way, do you understand who the starry hosts are? Do you understand what it means to worship the sun? That's what Catholicism does. That's what the prostitutes that bore out of her do. Because that's what Christmas and all of these feast days are all about. Mithras, their sun god. Tammuz, their sun god, whose image is the cross. You may read this and you may think, oh, I don't bow down to the sun or the moon or the stars. That's stupid. Is it now? I agree with you. It is stupid. Jeremiah then returned from Topheth, where the Lord had sent him to prophesy, and stood in the court of the Lord's temple and said to all the people, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Listen, I'm going to bring this city and all the villages around it, every disaster I pronounced against them, because they were stiff-necked and would not listen to my words. Well, where do his words come from? His prophets who are warning. What is the function of his witnesses? They're warning you, and you're not listening. How can you expect to enter the Passover, which in the fulfillment is you being passed over when he brings destruction, when he brings his great wrath? How do you expect to be saved? That is the Passover. Salvation, the covenant, being passed over. His great wrath is not for you. You go up in the resurrection. That's it. How can you expect that you're going to take part in that when you're not even observing his Passover? You're not preparing. You're not entering in. Or you'd be talking about it with us. He'd move you to testimony. You'd be asking about assembling with us. But you're not. Can you be saved this way? I'm reminded so often these days of what James said, of the question he asked, when Christ returns, will there be any faith left? I don't feel that I have a guarantee. And it baffles me how anybody else feels that they have a guarantee. I know that I need to keep doing this. Otherwise, it was a false alarm. That I have to pick up my cross on a daily basis, suffer for the name, live in this truth, receive his daily bread. Something's coming. I can feel the buildup in my spirit. Something is coming. He's letting me know. Are you going to allow yourself to be broken, to be shattered all over the floor, never to rise again, to go into the darkest torment in eternity? Is that what you want? Something else that God caused me to see the other day is that many of you on this channel have so-called ministries. And I would like to know who set you up for that. Who has you doing that? Have you healed? Because I know what I'm doing right now at this point in history. I know that I am a witness, and I know that the reason why God has me doing what I'm doing is because of the times, because of what he's getting ready to send. I know that the reason why God brought me through a process of healing was in order to do what I'm now doing. Have you healed? Did he bring you through that same process? Because I know how specific it has been. I know that I'm not making a dime from it. I know that I'm the scum of the earth for it. I know that I needed to heal first as an individual, that I needed to be taught by him how to walk in the authority he's given me correctly as a mother, as a previous employer. Because if I'm not doing well with the trust he's given me, I won't receive more trusts to serve in his house. Is that what he brought you through? Because I seriously doubt it. That's not what the word says. There's not a bunch of you doing ministries on YouTube. I know what God has me doing, and I know what you're doing is a lie. It is a lie. Otherwise, what are you doing here? Because God doesn't have me trolling Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, commentaries, sermons. He doesn't have me doing that. Are you really serving him? I know that you're not serving him. I know that you have set something up that is self-serving. And if you don't correct that, the darkest torment awaits you. He has not set you up to do what you're doing. I know that because I know what I'm doing. I know the times, and I know what he requires of me. And if that's what he requires of me, it's what he requires of you. Those of you who are doing this, those of you who are listening to people you have not discerned, heed the warning, because you are going to be shaved off. If this is what you value more than the truth, you will be shaved off. You will be one of those ones, and there won't be any going back. He has not threatened in vain to bring back to bring down the idols of Israel. Those setting themselves up as teachers and prophets who steal words from one another. He has not threatened in vain to tear down the house of each and every person who swears falsely in his name. So many people think that because they're in ministry, that they're in like Flynn. They are some of the most wicked people I have ever worked with. Superficial, stupid, counterfeit Christianity. They draw near to him with their lips. Their hearts are far from him. Everything is a rule for this and a rule for that. Say that memorized prayer. Scream out this spirit. Say it in the name of Jesus. And God says, why is there no healing for the daughter of my people? If you people have a message, you have a testimony, you have an answer, let the one who sits in the council of God and who has a true message, let him speak. But what are you doing here? You already have this figured out. You're already in ministry. What are you doing here? You're looking for something because you don't see. And you need to know that you are the exact people God is going to go after with this judgment. If that's what you're doing, setting yourself up in ministry and leading his flock astray because you don't have healing, so you have no possible way of teaching anybody else healing. You think you're exempt from doing the work that we are required to do on a daily basis to examine ourselves and be cleaned up? No, you just hop, skip, and jump right into ministry, right? And then you convince yourself that you're saved. It's creepy. It's not real. It's a lie. And those of us who are his, we know. We know that it's a lie. Here's the last chapter that God put on me. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against the mountains of Israel. Prophesy against them and say, you mountains of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to the mountains and hills, to the ravines and valleys. I'm about to bring a sword against you, and I will destroy your high places. Your altars will be demolished, and your incense altars will be smashed. And I will slay your people in front of your idols. I will lay the dead bodies of the Israelites in front of their idols, and I will scatter your bones around your altars. Wherever you live, the towns will be laid waste, and the high places demolished, so that your altars will be laid waste and devastated. Your idols smashed and ruined, your incense altars broken down, and what you have made wiped out. You think this hasn't started? Go look at the Palisades. Look at the Eaton burn scar. Look at the floods in Australia, the floods and fires in North Carolina. Look at what he's doing. Look at the progression, like a flood, of the false prophet, Antichrist agenda and relationship with the image of the Antichrist. If you know the word, you know where we're at in history. Your altars will be demolished and your incense altars will be smashed, and I will slay your people in front of all your idols. I will lay the dead bodies of the Israelites in front of their idols, and I will scatter your bones around your altars. Wherever you live, the towns will be laid waste and the high places demolished, so that your altars will be laid waste and devastated, your idols smashed and ruined, your incense altars broken down, and what you have made wiped out. Your people will fall slain among you, and you will know that I am the Lord. But I will spare some, for some of you will escape the sword when you're scattered among the lands and the nations. Then in the nations where they've been carried captive, those who escape will remember me, how I've been grieved by their adulterous hearts, which have turned away from me, and by their eyes, which have lusted after their idols. They will loathe themselves for the evil they've done and for all their detestable practices, and they will know that I am the Lord. I did not threaten to bring in vain to bring this calamity on them. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Strike your hands together and stamp your feet and cry out, alas, because of all the wicked and detestable practices of the people of Israel, for they will fall by the sword, famine, and plague. One who is far away will die of the plague, and one who is near will fall by the sword. And anyone who survives and is spared will die of famine. So I will pour out my wrath on them, and they will know that I am the Lord when their people lie slain among their idols around their altars, on every high hill and on all the mountain tops, under every spreading tree and every leafy oak, places where they offered fragrant incense to all their idols. And I will stretch out my hand against them and make them a desolate waste from the desert of Diblah, wherever they live. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Please discern this message with God.